I never planned to tell this story. Honestly, for a long time I tried to forget it ever happened. But some nights when the house is quiet and the city outside finally slows down, it comes back to me in pieces, the sounds, the looks, the way people judged me before I even opened my mouth. So, yeah, maybe it's time to say it out loud. It all started on a night when I was already running on empty. I was working security at a private medical center in Northern California, not exactly the kind of job people brag about at family dinners. To most folks, I was just the guy in a dark uniform standing near the entrance, invisible until someone needed to complain. I'd been doing that job for years, watching doctors walk past without looking at me. Patients assume I didn't understand English administrators talk over my head like I wasn't even there. You get used to it, or at least you tell yourself you do. You learn how to smile, nod. Keep your head down. That's survival. That night, the rain was coming down hard, the kind that soaks through your jacket no matter how good you think it is. I remember thinking I couldn't wait to clock out and go home, heat up leftovers, maybe fall asleep with the TV on. Nothing heroic, nothing dramatic. Just another shift. Then the alarms went off. People started running. Not fast at first, just that confused half-run where no one knows exactly what's happening yet. I saw a woman burst through the sliding doors screaming, holding a bundle against her chest. Her face was pale, eyes, wild hair plastered to her cheeks from the rain. She was crying so hard she could barely breathe, shouting something about her baby not waking up. Everyone froze for a second like the world had hit pause. I didn't. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. Or maybe when you've been ignored your whole life, you learn to act instead of waiting for permission. I took the baby from her arms, gently. Felt how limp she was, how wrong that felt. I yelled for a crash team, cleared a path, laid the baby down right there on the floor because waiting for a gurney would have been too slow. I started CPR the way I'd learned years ago back when I took an EMT course no one thought I'd ever use. People stared at me like I'd lost my mind. One nurse actually said, "Security, step back," like I was in the way. Yeah, that happened. But I didn't stop. I kept going until the baby gasped, just a tiny sound barely there, but enough to make my chest feel like it was going to explode. Then the doctors rushed in, took over, whisked the baby away. Suddenly, everyone was moving again. The mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing, and me, I was told to go back to my post. No thank you, no acknowledgement, just looks. Some surprised, some annoyed. Like I'd broken some unspoken rule about knowing my place. I thought that was the end of it. Just another weird night I'd replay in my head and eventually bury. But about 20 minutes later, one of the administrators came out, a stiff smile, clipboard clutched to her chest. She asked for my name. I told her. She raised an eyebrow like it didn't match whatever image she had in her head. Then she said, "The family wants to see you." I almost laughed. Families like that don't want to see guys like me. But I followed her anyway. In the ICU room, the baby was hooked up to machines, tiny chest rising and falling. The mother looked up at me and just broke down, again grabbed my hands, thanked me over and over. Her husband stood there too, eyes red, nodding like he couldn't find words. It was the first time that night anyone really saw me. Not the uniform, me. And that's when the doctor walked in. Tall guy. Expensive suit under his white coat. Confident walk like the world usually bends out of his way. He looked at me, then at the family, then back at me again, confusion written all over his face. "Who is this?" he asked. The mother said, "He's the man who saved our daughter." The doctor didn't say anything at first, just stared. Then he asked me flat, almost cold, "What training do you have?" Not "how is the baby?" Not "thank you." Just that. I told him. EMT course. Years ago. He smirked. Actually smirked. Said something about protocol's liability, how dangerous it was for someone like me to intervene. Someone like me. You know what he meant. I felt that old familiar heat rise up my neck, the mix of anger and shame I'd swallowed my whole life. But the mother cut him off. She said if he hadn't done something, my baby would be dead. Silence. The doctor looked uncomfortable then, like he'd lost control of the room. He nodded stiffly and walked out. And I thought, that's it. I'll probably get written up, maybe fired. Good deeds don't pay rent. The next day, I was called into HR. Same stiff smiles, same polite tone people use when they're about to tell you bad news. They asked me to explain what happened in detail. I did. No emotion, just facts. When I finished, the head of security leaned back in his chair and said, "Do you have any idea how serious this could have been if it went wrong?" I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Do you have any idea how serious it would have been if I'd done nothing?" He didn't like that answer. I was suspended pending investigation. That's when the story hit the local news. Someone had leaked it. Security guard saves baby. Video footage from the lobby cameras went viral. People started calling me a hero. Strangers stopped me on the street. Online comments blew up, some praising me, others saying I'd overstepped, that I was reckless, that I should have stayed in my lane. Funny how everyone has an opinion when it's not their child on the floor. Then the hospital released a statement, carefully worded. They praised the outcome, but emphasized that unauthorized intervention was not encouraged. Reading that felt like a punch to the gut. They were trying to have it both ways, take credit without standing behind me. The doctor from that night went on TV too. He talked about standards, about professionalism. He never said my name, never looked at the camera when referring to me. Just the individual involved. That's when something inside me snapped. I'd spent my whole life being underestimated. Teachers assuming I wouldn't go far. Employers assuming I was lucky just to be there. People assuming my value ended at whatever uniform I was wearing. I was tired of swallowing it. So I told my story. I did an interview. One interview turned into 3. I talked about why I took that EMT course in the first place, about my sister who died years ago because help came too late. I talked about standing there that night knowing I could help and choosing not to walk away. I didn't attack anyone. I just told the truth. The public reaction was intense. Donations poured in for the family. Petitions circulated demanding the hospital reinstate me. People started asking uncomfortable questions about why my actions were questioned at all. Why a man in a security uniform was assumed incompetent, while a man in a white coat was assumed right no matter what. The hospital caved. They reinstated me with back pay. Issued another statement, this time thanking me by name. Too late to feel sincere, but whatever. Here's the part people don't expect. A week later, that doctor came to find me. Not on camera, no audience. Just him standing awkwardly near my post. He apologized. Not perfectly, not eloquently, but genuinely. He admitted he'd judged me. Admitted he'd let his ego talk before his humanity. I nodded. Didn't say much. Forgiveness doesn't always need a speech. The baby recovered fully. I still get a card every year on her birthday. Crayon drawings now. Stick figures labeled me Mom, Dad, and one labeled you. I didn't become famous. I didn't quit my job to give motivational speeches. I stayed. But I stopped shrinking. I went back to school. Finished my paramedic certification. I speak up now when I see something wrong. Turns out, when you stop acting invisible, people have no choice but to see you. So here's why I'm telling you this. Because somewhere out there, someone is being underestimated right now. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's someone you ignored today without realizing it. We love to believe competence looks a certain way, wears a certain uniform, has a certain title. But real courage doesn't ask for permission. Real humanity doesn't check resumes. The question isn't whether I broke a rule that night. The question is whether rules should ever matter more than a life. So, what do you think? Was I right to act, or did I cross a line? I had no business crossing. Have you ever seen someone dismissed because of how they looked, where they came from, or the job they did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them. And yeah, I'm curious where you land on this one.